This is Fight Club. Come on in.
And I've always said this, and it's not to say, oh, I thought he was... I always kind of believed he was going to beat Spence. I never thought in a million years he would do an absolute job on him and make him look ordinary.
Welcome to Fight Club. This is episode 9. Gareth A Davies here via Boxing Social. Coming up on this week's show, Sam Jones, the ever-opinionated, ever-present manager, joins me on the show. Boxing Board of Control General Secretary Robert Smith joins me, as does Rhys Mold, the lightweight boxer. And we got a special pre-recorded interview with Chris Eubank Jr, who faces Liam Smith in Manchester on September the 2nd. And of course, breaking news with today's show that Anthony Joshua now faces Robert Helenius, the 6'9" Finn born in Sweden, instead of Dillian Whyte. All that to come. Welcome to Fight Club. I'm Gareth A Davies. As we record the show, the breaking news that Anthony Joshua, obviously not facing Dillian Whyte on Saturday night, will face the 6'9", born in Sweden, Finnish fighter Robert Helenius, who's fought several of the world title contenders, has beaten 3 world champions. He's been beaten by Dillian Whyte. He's got a record of 32-4. He was found at the 11th hour. Different reactions from you on social media. Some people say he's not worthy of being an opponent. Some people say he'd retired already. Some people saying he's a poor man's Tyson Fury. For me, before I get Sam Jones on to join me to talk about this, there was very little that Eddie Hearn could do, in my view, and DAZN. They've made it a non-pay-per-view event. Joshua was desperate to fight. Been covering this story all over the weekend. Gerald Washington, Derek Chisora, Dempsey McKean were in the frame. McKean ruled out because he's a 6'6" southpaw, of course undefeated. Fighting Flip Hrgovic, also ruled out because he's the IBF mandatory challenger, and not fair on Joshua in many ways to take that level of opponent on a week's notice. He'd been in a 12-week camp preparing for Dillian Whyte, of course. Washington was considered, Chisora was considered. Washington was an easy option. Chisora was a difficult option for me, but may have made more of a business decision. DAZN are not making this a pay-per-view. It's a regular event. I'm glad the fight's going ahead. I'm glad the event's going ahead. Eddie Hearn's already explained, going on Talk Sport this morning as we record, that there was chaos, really. They scrambled. It's taken 72 hours. They've come up with an opponent, and I'm going to get the views now of Sam Jones. I'm happy that Joshua is fighting, that the event is going ahead, and that it's not delayed a month. This is a time when heavyweight boxing seems to advance and then shoots itself in the foot. Let me introduce in Sam Jones, manager, ubiquitous opinionator on boxing, and a very salient character in the sport, in my view. Good morning, Sam. How are you?
Good morning, Gareth. How you doing, mate?
I'm very well. I'm very well indeed. Your reaction, first of all, Sam, to Joshua's opponent on Saturday night being Robert Helenius?
No, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, and it's since we got that news that it's not a good look for boxing. It's like happened again, another adverse finding. It's not a good look. We got to wait for the facts to come out, but not a good look. But like you say, Gareth, it as soon as that happens, and because what I thought was going to happen is I thought the event was going to get probably pulled, because obviously with it being a big pay-per-view event, it's a sellout. It's very, very hard, and it's got to be a quick turnaround to get somebody in that's realistic on money, which people don't really understand, because it's very easy to say, I want to fight Anthony Joshua, as all these heavyweights should want to do, and all these managers should want to call for their fighters, because it's a good opportunity. AJ's not looked the best in his last 3 fights. We've got to be honest. I'm an AJ fan, but we've got to be truthful. He hasn't looked his dangerous best in his last 3 fights. Obviously, he's boxed Usyk twice, and he was underwhelming against Franklin. I don't think he was poor against Franklin. I just thought he was a bit underwhelming.
He seemed to be on the leash against Franklin, by the way, from Derek James, that they were trying something. And let's be fair, I was at both Usyk fights. He was outboxed in the first fight, wrong tactics. In the second fight, the last 4 rounds, it was taken away from him. He was doing well for 9 rounds, in my view.
Yeah. He listen, if we're going to speak about his second performance, I thought he didn't believe in himself as much, in my opinion. I think I'm not saying he was going to ever beat Usyk, but I think the fight would have been a lot closer if he had just had a bit more self-belief. But listen, going into this fight, we're talking about Robert Helenius. Is it the opponent we want to see in the ring with him? No, it isn't. We were all honest about that. It's not the opponent Eddie. It's not the opponent AJ. Nobody wanted this fight to happen. But given it's a week notice and the show remains, which I'm really happy about, because I know, listen, I take a lot of stick. I speak on impulse. I'm not always right in what I say. When I give predictions, sometimes I'm right.
You're passionate and knowledgeable. You're passionate and knowledable.
Yeah. This is the thing, Gareth, right? But listen, we're not always right. Same as you, yeah? You've been in the business a long time. You give your predictions. Sometimes it's wrong. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. We're not all perfect. But a week's notice for this fight, I'm happy the show stays alive. And I'll tell you one of the main reasons why for that is because when you have your Maisie Roses, George Liddards, Johnny Fisher,
there's 16 other boxers on the card who don't get paid if they don't fight.
16 of other boxers. And Gareth, you know yourself, what happens when fighters don't fight?
They don't get paid.
They don't get paid.
At least the industry carries on. DAZN have made the right decision, in my view, by making it a regular event, not a pay-per-view. And there are fans out there moaning today. There's people saying, why is it going ahead? Why are we seeing this opponent? I spoke to Anthony Joshua last week. I think I spoke to him on the Tuesday or Wednesday, and obviously this came out on the Saturday morning. He said he's after respect in the division, and he asked me while I was interviewing him, how do I get respect? I said, you've got respect for facing Dillian Whyte, there's no question about it, and you've got respect if you fight Wilder over in Saudi or wherever you fight him, and if you fight Tyson Fury. Those are the only 2 other fights that you need to have. Maybe Joe Joyce as well. Apart from that, that's all he needs. And he leaves his career intact.
The thing is with me, Gareth, is like, let's be truthful. And like I say, I speak on impulse. I sometimes my mouth gets me into trouble. I know this. But what I'm saying is in heavyweight boxing, the only fights we're really, truly interested in right now is Tyson Fury against Usyk for the undisputed title. That's the only fight I want to see Usyk in, and Tyson Fury. No disrespect to Daniel Dubois, and I'd love to see him do the job. Yeah. But I'm not overly excited about that fight, right? I'll watch it, of course, because it's a Brit. He's against Usyk. Good luck. AJ against Wilder. Usyk against
Wilder.
Tyson Fury.
And Wilder. Usyk Wilder as well. Joshua and Fury we still want to see. It's still a big fight in my view, depending on what Joshua does in his next couple of fights. But those are fights. Joshua against Joyce, Fury against Joyce. They're all fights that command the interest of the mainstream, not the general hardcore boxing fan. That's what we want to see. I'm going to come on to Terence Crawford and Errol Spence with you in a minute, but it's those mainstream, when heavyweight boxing's healthy, the rest of boxing is healthy in my view. That's why this is good for the industry to go ahead. I applaud Eddie Hearn. I've been listening to Simon Jordan, and I hope he gets well soon, by the way. I've heard about his prostate cancer. I hope he gets well soon, by the way. So it's more of a gentle battle between Hearn and Jordan on Talk Sport this week. I've been listening to Eddie Hearn.
It wasn't gentle. When I left
it's not gentle. No, but that's because of the pulling the card with the Conor Benn and the Chris Eubank situation last October that Simon Jordan's got a bee in his bonnet over. And we all asked Eddie Hearn at the time, by the way, in an off-the-record chat at the fire station in Chelsea or in Mayfair, how can you not have a clause in the contract where you pull a fight or an event? Of course you do. You can pull it. They've pulled this event. Once bitten, twice shy. They pulled this event. Whatever happens to Dillian Whyte now is really up in the air. We still don't know the substance, by the way. People like Dan Raphael are reporting allegedly that it's multiple tests, but we shall see on that. But that's by the by now in many ways. But only in boxing can one thing like this wreck an entire event. And I don't know what we do going forward, Sam. You're very involved with so many boxers. I don't think there is a way through it. The way through it is don't cheat, don't take drugs.
Yeah, listen, 100%. And listen, Gareth, it's very difficult because, and like, again, sometimes when you jump on a Zoom, you give your opinion. I give you my opinion on how I'm feeling at that moment, right? So with it, when it comes to Dillian Whyte, someone asked me yesterday, jump on and do an interview about Dillian Whyte. I don't want to yet because I want to know what he's been pinged for. Yeah, I want to know what he's been pinged for.
Exactly.
Because there is differences between. And like, yes, I know. It could be a nasal decongestant that is banned in America. The Vicks inhaler in America, for example, I don't know where he's training, but the Vicks inhaler in America has pseudoephedrine in it. I remember when there was a skier for the UK popped in the Olympics. The Vicks inhaler in the UK doesn't have ephedrine in it, or it's not illegal here. Could be anything. That's why I just think before. We
all jump to conclusions.
We're all guilty of it, right? You, me, we're all guilty of saying, this. We've got to let's just see what he's been pinged for, and then we can pass our opinions.
Absolutely. I maintain this. You know, I've been in the sport 32 years. I am consistent. I've been consistent with Conor Benn, who says he'll never give me an interview again. I've never called him a drugs cheat in the entire 10 months that we've been talking about it. All I've said is there are 2 instances of clomiphene in his system. Have a hearing and clarify it. That's be all and end all. Because in an inherently dangerous sport, you need the veracity of a testing system. People get legally killed in the ring. We're in a very dangerous sport. It is the Wild West in terms of business negotiation. Look, I've got to ask you this. Let's cut to the quick. What do you think about Helenius's chances against Joshua? He was knocked out by Wilder, but he went to fight. He's known as having heavy power, but not the greatest chin. And he'll fight the Viking.
I've got to be honest. I believe he'll go. Listen, Helenius is thinking, you know what? This is definitely my last chance.
He fought 5 days ago, by the way.
He fought 5 days ago in
the castle. In the castle.
In that strange looking place where every box.
Castle.
But listen, he will come to fight. He will come to fight. Do I give him a chance? No, not really. But I think that he will. I think he'll seize his opportunity in the sense of he will go for it. He won't just back off. He knows that he's probably got 3 or 4 rounds in him. Let's have a go. Let's see. But I think that he shouldn't possess too much of an issue for Anthony Joshua, who has apparently had the best camp he's ever had.
I think we need to give Anthony Joshua the right to win on points, win by knockout. Deontay Wilder knocked him out in a round. There's plenty of yardsticks here. He's been in against and beaten 3 world champions.
He has to go in there and do a job on him.
He needs to do a job on him to satisfy everyone. The place will erupt.
If this fight goes past 6,
you'll be very surprised.
People are going to be jumping all over him and saying this and that. But look, let's just be glad. Listen, I'm glad the fight's on for the undercard fighters who don't earn as much money, especially the ones on the 6 rounders and the 4 rounders that aren't earning as much money, that have done camps, because people don't realise when you put money into a camp, you don't get it back when fights come up. It's a self-employed business, boxing. So I am very happy that Matchroom have decided to keep the show on, and I'm also happy Anthony Joshua gets to fight as well, because I know that his next fight, so we're being told, is going to be Deontay Wilder, which is a fantastic fight for world boxing.
Absolutely right. Look, you and I had a bit of a back and forth. You ragged me out on Twitter on me giving Errol Spence the first and the third rounds, which are very close. I look back on the judges' scoring. One of the judges gave Errol Spence the third round. That doesn't mean a lot, but it was a very close fight up until it wasn't a close fight at all, but there were close exchanges in the first 3 rounds. The second round, Terence Crawford put Errol Spence off balance down. He was embarrassed by that. Spence, an amazing performance, by the way, by Terence Crawford. The big question for you, right? You know your boxing. I love chatting boxing with you, and hopefully we'll be doing a show together going forward, because that's what I want. Me and you in a studio together, hammer and tongs.
Apparently there's talks. Apparently
it's in talks. It's in talks.
Apparently we're in negotiations.
We are in negotiations.
Show.
Would Terence Crawford, this is the big question, and I've put it out there. I've put it out there. Terence Crawford, and I'll tell you this, Terence Crawford may well have beaten Mayweather at welterweight.
Gareth, do you know what, right? I don't like comparing errors, full stop, because I just think, let him be the boy of his era. I personally believe, and bear in mind, I am a massive Crawford fan. I've always said this, and it's not to say, I thought he was... I always kind of believed he was going to beat Spence. I never thought in a million years he would do an absolute job on him and make him look ordinary, which, to make an elite fighter look ordinary, you have got to be an all-time great. Yeah. And that's what I believe Terence Crawford is. I still believe Floyd Mayweather would have found a way to win.
The early Floyd, the Zab Judah Floyd, would have been a great fight.
No, either Floyd. I'm
not so sure about that. The late Floyd, I'm not sure, but we'll leave that. We'll rest it. But what has Floyd said, Sam, in the last couple of days? He should be fighting at 154 or 160. That says a lot to me. Crawford, that is.
I think he meant Spence.
Oh, you think he meant
Spence?
Oh, okay.
I think he said Spence should be fighting at
154. Yeah, maybe. But there is an argument that Spence was tight at the weight. There is. He didn't look himself.
There's always going to be, in boxing, right? There's always a reason as to why somebody's lost. Exactly. There's always I think. So, listen, should Spence be a 154 fighter? Yes, he should, 100%. But he chose the weight. They agreed the weight. They made the super fight. They both need immense credit. And anyone slagging Errol Spence off is an idiot, yeah? Because these type of marquee fights are what brings people together. And I'll be honest with you, guys, I'm too old right now. I've got kids and stuff, so I don't stay up as much to watch these 4 a.m.
Come on,
fights.
You're a young man still. Stop this.
Hey, I'm getting on a bit, Gareth. I'm getting on a bit now. Boxing has aged me, mate. Boxing has aged me. But I stayed up and I watched it and I enjoyed every second of it. Not because it was a competitive fight, was because you just saw an all-time great at work. And I just think... And I think that we need to enjoy him while he's here, because he's 36 nearly and he's not going to be around for much longer in boxing terms. Don't get twist on that. But I'd like to see Errol Spence come back at 154 and continue his career as well, because I think in boxing people are very quick to say, they should jack it in and whatnot, but he's lost once to probably the best of his era.
It's an extreme sport. There's a lot of extreme opinions out there. It's how you cut through the smoke and mirrors that counts. Here's a last question for you today before we start to go hammer and tongs in the studio on a regular basis. If Canelo was still at middleweight, Terence Crawford against Canelo, like Sugar Ray Leonard stepping up to face Marvin Hagler at Caesar's Palace in 1987. There you go. Points. Matador and the Bull, yeah?
Crawford wins on points against Canelo Alvarez.
Wow, I agree with you. I agree with you.
I know people might disagree. And bear in mind, Canelo Alvarez, another all-time great. No one can say anything about Canelo Alvarez with his record.
But styles make fights, Sam, and Crawford's style. Yeah.
I think Terence Crawford's style is like, he's got a good chin as well. Like,
he reminds me of Andre Ward. He hasn't got a style. He apes his opponents. He mirrors other opponents. He patiently and meticulously, he's got power. He just pickles them. And that's what he did.
Doesn't waste shots.
He doesn't waste.
He wastes nothing. Absolutely. He was like a cobra spitting venom.
He is as cool as a winter day in Omaha. It's great to see you, my friend. Great, always great to see you. Thank you very much for your salient opinions,
My
germane
pleasure,
opinions.
Gareth, and I shall see you soon.
Absolutely. That's
Bye-bye,
Sam
mate.
Jones. That's Sam Jones. Up next, we have a pre-recorded interview with Chris Eubank Jr. Take a look at this.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, and Gareth, can you just, for the sake of clarity, can we confirm this is not for TalkSport Radio?
This is for Fight Club Unboxing Social and for the Telegraph. Yes, indeed. It's nothing to. This will not play out on TalkSport, Chris and JJ.
Thank you, sir. All right, we've got a solid 8 minutes. Take it away.
Okay, lovely. Christopher, how are you?
I am very well, thank you, Gareth.
In Vegas, I take it?
I am indeed in sunny Vegas, hot. And yeah, everything is going on out here right now.
I bet it beats being in rainy Britain or Brighton for training camp.
You know what? I was saying to my friend a few days ago that I'm never doing it again. I'm never having a training camp in Brighton again. It was miserable, literally miserable for the last camp I had with Liam. You know, freezing cold gyms, having to go out and run in the freezing cold, and having to wear 6 layers. Just it's brutal. Out here you got the sun, you got the environment, it's just for morale. It's just such a better environment out here. So yeah, I think I'm done with training in Brighton in terms of fight camps. Yeah.
Clarify for us, obviously there's been some kind of interviews in the media that Roy Jones Jr. won't be in your camp, or at least with you in Vegas for this camp. It's nothing that he haven't split or anything, but he's got commitments in Florida, he's saying, and he wanted you to go there, but you want to stay in Vegas and train. Is that correct?
No, he wasn't. He had other fighters. He had other commitments. He wasn't available for this period of time, which is, it is what it is. We move on, we move forward. I still think Roy's a great coach. Just wasn't meant to be for this particular fight.
But are you taking any of his counsel from the last performance into this? Are you still getting advice from him, what you perhaps need to think about for the second fight with Liam Smith?
No, I have a completely new team now in Coach Bomac. He is Terence Crawford's coach. The stars have kind of aligned, and they were all out in Vegas training and fighting. Obviously, an amazing result over the weekend. We were in touch before the fight, and we said once that fight's over, we'll get to work, and that's exactly what we did. We were in the gym together on Monday, the Monday after the fight, and obviously watching how Terence performed, that gave me huge encouragement. These guys really do know what they're doing. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what we can achieve moving forward.
And will Bomac come over with you, obviously, for fight week?
I believe so. Yeah. Yes.
Fantastic. What did you make of? You mentioned Terence Crawford's performance against Errol Spence, and it's brilliant news that you're working with Bomac. What did you make of his performance at the weekend?
I mean, world class is putting it putting it lightly, right? It was a masterclass. It was, not a lot of people expected it to go that way. Obviously there were people that Terence is going to win, but in that fashion, with in that type of with that type of dominance. It was a shutout. There was no contest, and I think that's what made it really impressive, because Errol Spence is a world-class fighter, so to be able to do that to him, that speaks volumes.
Have you watched that first fight with Liam Smith back? Have you analysed what went wrong in your mind? Have you done any soul searching over it? Obviously, we haven't seen you stop like that before. Do you possibly think it was due to a bad weight cut? Back in October, had your body recovered? Have you been over it yourself in your mind and physiologically?
For sure. I cut weight in a certain way for the first time in my career before this fight. That won't be happening again. But I'm not putting the loss down to that. I was dominant. I was winning the fight. I was comfortable for those first 3 rounds. He didn't touch me. And maybe, and I guess, I got complacent. That was the mistake. I gave him the opportunity to do what he did. So that's boxing 101. Protect yourself at all times. I didn't do that, and I paid the price. And I've learned from that mistake. It will never happen again.
So obviously, as a proud fighter, as I know you to be, you'll want to avenge your defeat. But is there the carrot there of the Conor Benn? It looks like his case is coming to a conclusion. Like there's the carrot there of that fight for you as well. You can get the win on September the 2nd.
I mean, that fight will be there regardless. But obviously, Conor Benn is irrelevant. He has nothing to do with my wanting to win this fight. I want to win this fight because I want to win every fight.
Yeah.
And, I know I'm a better fighter than Smith. And, for people to think or say otherwise, it upsets me. So I have to make that right. They have the argument now that Smith is the better man, the better fighter. They have the argument because he has the win over me. So I have to take that argument away. If he does it again, then there's no argument. It's just fact that he is the better man, and I can't live with that. So I have to make sure I go in there and I do what I know I can do.
It was very interesting to see you both together. Obviously, you came over for a little bit of media work together. Was it interesting to go head to head with him again?
Yeah. Listen, it's interesting going head to head with anyone you're going to fight. You see, you learn things, you see things that you maybe didn't know were there. You learn about your man, and every fighter is different. That's the interesting thing. You never really know what you're going to get. Me and Liam have now, we've shared the ring. We've done all these press conferences. I know him pretty well as a fighter. That we did the head-to-head again, which will, be out in the coming weeks.
There's a couple of clips out there that are fascinating already, though, that I've seen, where you and him do go back and forth, and it just suggests the element that he might even be overconfident this time.
Maybe he'll have the mindset that I had in the first fight. Not to say that I'm not confident. I'm extremely confident that I'm going to go out there and win. But maybe for sure he will have a confidence about him that he didn't have in the first fight. Now I know he said he was very confident, but there's a difference between saying it and really believing it. And now he can believe it because he has a win over me. So it's going to be interesting to see how that transfers over, into the fight once that bell goes.
Final one from me. We've always talked about you wanting to fight Golovkin, wanting world title fights. Are you prize fighting at the moment in this stage of your career? Does world championship still burn? We mentioned Liam Smith, obviously, September the 2nd. Potentially a fight with Conor Benn is always going to be there, as you say. Does the world title ambition still burn?
Absolutely. But as you know, boxing is a very political game, and to pin down a world title, it can be extremely tough. And so, we're always looking to do that, but I'm blessed with having the opportunity to fight great fighters and make big fights outside of these world title fights, which not a lot of fighters can do. I can do that. So I don't have to, I don't have to wait around. I don't have to, to hold my horses and beg and call out these guys at world titles, because I can be active without it. Is that a good thing? I mean, yeah, it's a good thing because I make money, I fight, I entertain. I don't have the world title, but that's always something that can happen. And anytime there is an opportunity, we try and hunt it down. But it's about pinning these guys down, and it can be tough.
I'm delighted to hear you're working with Brian McIntyre. Looking forward to seeing you in Fight Week. Go well, stay well. It's great to see you as always. Thanks, Chris.
All right, Gareth. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Welcome back to Fight Club on Boxing Social. I'm Gareth A. Davies. Joining me now is Rhys Mold. He looks like he's resting up in bed. He's not. He looks handsome and on shape. Obviously defending his WBA Intercontinental Lightweight title in Sheffield on October the 6th. Hey, Rhys, nice to see you. How are you, Reece Mould?
Not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Very good, thank you. Have you got an opponent yet for October the 6th?
Yeah. They're just confirming it. I think it'll be confirmed by end of tomorrow. They're just finalising a couple of things with him. So yeah, by tomorrow it should be announced.
October the 6th then. So you are probably early in camp at the moment?
Yeah, obviously we're like 8.5 weeks out now. So, but to be fair, since my last fight with our Max's sparring partner for his fight, so I stayed in camp and then went out to America and I was sparring him out there. So I've really just stayed in, and my weight and everything's been good. So I've just rolled into this, and we'll start really knuckling down probably in the next couple of weeks.
Have you talked to Maxie Hughes since he got back about that fight with George Kambosos? Because many of us had Maxie winning that fight.
Yeah, obviously. Well, I were in his corner for that night. We trained with Maxie, and he's been in the gym. We obviously knew going out there, if it was going to be close, that it possibly could go the other way, but we didn't think as being it as wide as it was in Max's favour that it'd go that way. But he's got on with it. He's pushing it. I'm sure he's going to come through it, and I just hope IBF do the right thing and make him mandatory for the winners, whoever fight for it next.
Has the appeal gone in then? I spoke to Maxie on Talk Sport a couple of weeks ago, or kind of the week after the event. Has he appealed the judge's decision against him?
I spoke to him Friday night about it, and I think he's on about sending it in Saturday. So yeah, I think he's sent an appeal in. Yeah.
Tell me about what's in the water in Doncaster. You're a Donny lad. Dave Allen, I think you trained in the gym, and we'll talk about Dave in a minute, who's obviously making a comeback, I think. Gavin and Jamie McDonnell. Jamie, obviously a world champion. They share something with you that we'll go into in a minute. Who else there? Maxie, obviously, from Doncaster. What's in the water in Donny?
Terry Harper.
Terry Harper, indeed.
Jason Cunningham from
Yeah.
I don't know. Majority of us have all come from the same amateur gym down at Doncaster Plant Works. So yeah.
Doncaster Plant Works. Now that's a working man's gym or working woman's gym, if ever I heard one.
Me and Maxie actually trained. I was 10 years old, and Maxie came in at 15, and we trained right through each other, and we're still training together with each other.
Amazing. Well, like the McDonnell brothers, who are still plastering, I believe you've taken an hour off today from your plastering job. Is that right?
Yeah, finished early, especially for you. You got me half a day doing this interview. So yeah, and just steady away for this next week. So I know I'll be breaking off work and I'll be training like twice a day then for the next 8 weeks.
It's a very, very physical job, plastering, isn't it? I remember some Irish prop in the past used to plaster ceilings, and it's what created a great musculature in this part of his neck, believe it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not a bad thing that I'm doing that type of job after, because it is, like I say, it is lifting and stuff like that all day long. So yeah.
Do you train after a day at plastering as well?
Yeah, so like pre-fight, it's like now I know I'm fighting, so I'm fighting 8 weeks. I'll finish work 8 week out. But in between then I'll still stay in the gym like 3 times a week over in Leeds. And I train. We start at 7 o'clock and we finish around about 9 o'clock. So yeah, it is hard, but it's what you have to do.
People don't realise. They think, that you have a following online, or you're known as a boxer. You have a name that fame doesn't. It just doesn't mean you have to have a job in the background. There's so many boxers that have a job alongside boxing.
Yeah, I think you have to really. It's not even that. It's like stuff when the COVID and stuff like that. And like when I was mandatory for the British title, I probably didn't get in ring for 18 months. So that would have been 18 months what I didn't have paid. It's just not. It's not possible not to not work. And a lot of people, like you say, don't realise that.
On that note, Rhys, and we look forward to your event in Sheffield on October the 6th. Do you understand why DAZN and Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua and 258 management on a major event wanted to keep that fight alive? They've just announced that Robert Helenius will fight Anthony Joshua. What do you make of that? And do you understand them keeping that card alive for the likes of Johnny Fisher, Dempsey McKean, Flip Hergovich, all these other guys, Derek Chisora, and Gerald Washington, all these other fighters on the card, that if they don't fight, they don't get paid?
Well, this is it, isn't it? And obviously, luckily, they've got a promoter like Eddie behind them, and he's going to take a bit of a loss on that show, and at least all the lads are fighting and he's still backing them. It's great. I know a lot of smaller promoters and stuff exact same. If they've got a couple of lads there what have lost out on the show, they're not prepared to take a bit of a loss, and they'll just cancel the show. But then I know others what will take the loss, and I'm just glad that they've still got the show on, and obviously this boxing on Saturday night for everyone to watch.
If you're fighting on October the 6th and on October the 1st, you hear that your opponent's popped for something or has got an injury or something's happened, do you still want to go ahead on October the 6th, no matter who it is?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, I literally had it last year where all in fight week I had 3 on the bounce. The latest one was just as a set off to get weighed in.
Wow.
For a Commonwealth title fight, and it fell off. So yeah, definitely.
What does it feel like as a boxer when? Yeah, exactly. You've done all the hard work. What does it feel like as a boxer when that happens? When you've prepared for someone and then it completely changes?
Oh, it's just so frustrating, because obviously, especially when you get to like championship level now, you might only fight a couple of times a year. So that might be the next 6 months of that year wasted, as well as that 8 week, 10 week camp what you've just had as well. And you're no further on than what you were 6 months ago. Do you know what I'm saying? It is very frustrating.
There's no other sport like it, is there?
No.
But
I don't think I'd advise my kids to get into it.
But fortunately, you're addicted to it, like Anthony Joshua, like all the others in the sport. It's great to see you. We hope you go well on October the 6th, and we look forward to the announcement of your opponent this week, which will be all over. Rhys Mold, thanks for joining us. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Pleasure. Thanks, Rhys. That was Rhys Mold. Up next, Robert Smith, General Secretary of the Boxing Board of Control, talks to us about the chaos around the last few days and how he got into the sport. Welcome back to Fight Club here on Boxing Social. I'm Gareth A. Davies. Joining me now, I want to say a friend in boxing. I've known him 30 years. He's got an extraordinary history in the sport. It's the Boxing Board of Control General Secretary, Robert Smith. Robert, how are you?
Very good, thank you, Gareth. Nice to see you again, speak to you. Very good.
It's unusual to see you in the boardroom. This is where all these stewards' meetings takes place, I take it.
Yes, that's correct. Bit of a technical problem with my computer in my office, so they've transported me down to the boardroom to have a chat with you.
Yeah, but the boxing fans get to see this amazing room that you guys make these decisions over. Let me ask you, first of all, it's out there now, of course, Anthony Joshua fighting Robert Helenius. People think it's just Eddie Hearn, DAZN, Anthony Joshua, 258 management. They're scrambling in the background to rescue an event, but it involves a lot of things for you at the Boxing Board of Control. Did you get a weekend in the end?
No, not really. Well, it wasn't too bad, actually, to be fair. I spoke to Frank Smith on Saturday morning. Didn't know about Robert boxing him, but at the time we knew about the issue we had. Obviously, we've got to deal with the medicals, etc., which are coming in. Robert only boxed last Friday or Saturday, I believe, so he's obviously fit and ready to go. And I have to say, take my hat off to Eddie and Frank and his team who come up with somebody as reasonable as this. I think it's fair enough, to be fair.
So, in the background, are they negotiating, or not negotiating, but are they consulting and discussing with you the whole time? Because, as you say, you need to license the guy to fight in the UK. I mean, Helenius, as we know, fought in a castle last weekend. Obviously, he took no damage. But are you party to all those things alongside Matchroom, DAZN, and Anthony Joshua's team while that's going on?
Well, we ultimately have to approve the opponent. So it doesn't matter how much discussion takes place before. We have to approve the opponent. And once we were notified the possibility of being Robert, we obviously looked into matters, etc., make sure we were satisfied. We're still in the process of licensing him. I can't see an issue with that. And we'll deal with it best we can. But yeah, they obviously do that. They do the donkey work with regard to getting the opponent. We have to approve it. And discussions took place, possibility of who's going to be. I've got no issue with that.
Obviously, the news broke at 10:45 a.m. on Tuesday morning about Robert Helenius being the 11th hour opponent for Anthony Joshua at the O2 Arena on Saturday night. When did you know it would be that opponent? I mean, are they running that by you on the Monday, the Sunday, the Monday, and the Tuesday morning?
Yeah, I spoke to Frank Smith with a list of possible opponents. That was one, and I spoke to him again this morning, and it was confirmed they were going to announce it. So they announced it, but no issue at all. It's very, we all talk to our promoters, etc., and just to make sure they're not going to bring somebody in who's ridiculous, etc. I think in the scheme of things and the situation they're in, they've done a very good job.
I agree with you. Obviously, you and I speak almost on a weekly basis, and it tends to be more when there's obviously we speak at events all the time. We've known each other a long time, and obviously I do work in the newspaper world as well as the radio world, and I see you at events and so on. But you cannot mitigate for the, I suppose, expecting the unexpected in boxing. It's peculiarly one of those industries where there's no other sport like it, really, where someone can drop out an event literally at the last minute in a headline event, and that's what everyone's pushing towards or bought tickets for.
No, that's true. I mean, most things are team events. So if somebody gets injured or there's something wrong, they will be replaced. Obviously, with the boxing match, it's an individual sport, so that's a big difference. But also, one of the things you've got to think about is, you know, forget how many fights we've got at least 14 other boxers taking part in that event, and they would lose their purses. So it's take the whole, you know, it's very easy to say, well, it's not a good enough fight, whatever, it's not this, it's not that. But there's other people involved as well. And as I say, I think Robertson, former European heavyweight champion, and I know Wilder knocked him out around, but Wilder could knock anybody out around, to be honest with you, to be fair to him. So it'll be interesting to see. And Anthony's coming back from a couple of defeats, reasonable performance. I thought Anthony got badly criticised last time. And to be fair, I thought he boxed quite good in his first fight back with regard to 2 losses. So it'll be interesting to see what we get on Saturday. But I'm sure it's going to be a great night. But Southern Area Heavyweight Championship fight with Johnny Fisher, you know, it's going to be a good night.
As you say, and Flip Hrgovic as well against Dempsey McKean, both 2 unbeaten heavyweights, the IBF mandatory challenger in Hrgovic, and obviously unbeaten fighter in the Australian, Dempsey McKean, who I understand Dempsey McKean, Gerald Washington, Derek Chisora were all in the running potentially to fill the breach emptied by Dillian Whyte. Eddie Hearns revealed that he found out at 1 a.m. East Coast time about Dillian Whyte. Can you just tell us, obviously we don't know what the substance is at the moment, we know it was a VADA test with Dillian Whyte. When were the Boxing Board of Control informed of Dillian Whyte's VADA test?
I would have received that information about the same time as Eddie, to be honest with you. But I didn't open my, I mean, obviously came overnight with the time, with the difference in times, etc. And I opened my emails on Saturday morning at 5:30, 4:46, and saw it. And then I spoke to Frank Smith about 10 o'clock, whatever, texted him about 7, whatever. So I would have been informed the same, I was informed the same time as Eddie was.
And now, you grew up with your father managing boxers that a lot of people don't know about. Obviously, you're from Cambridge, from Cambridgeshire. And a lot of people don't know, and I'd like to talk to you about this today. It's a magazine show. We've got the news, the business stuff out of the way, the housekeeping, if you like. But you grew up around boxing. You boxed yourself. You boxed Lloyd Honeyghan. Tell us about your career.
I got in the ring with him, Gareth. I'm not sure I boxed him. I got in the ring with him.
Yeah, but the Ragamuffin defeated arguably one of the pound for pound number ones in Donald Curry back in, I think it was 85, wasn't it? Tell me about you as a boxer and how you got into it because of Dad.
Very much a boxing family. My father's from Scotland. My mother's from Wales, or was from Wales. My grandfather in Scotland used to box in the booths, go around the country in the booth, the old booths. If people don't remember that, or they're too young, it's just a fairground attraction, really. You go around and challenge anybody in the crowd. He boxed Benny Lynch, got beat by Benny Lynch on points. Wow. My Welsh grandfather was boxed for the Welsh Fusiliers, was an amateur. And my dad he boxed as an amateur, only had 7 amateur fights. And my granddad made him pack up because he wasn't good enough in an engineering career, but then became a trainer and a manager. So myself and my 2 older brothers and my younger sister have been brought up in boxing all our life, to be fair.
And what were you like as a boxer? I always say that you look more like Robert Duran, maybe Robert Duran in his 40s. As you get older, you've just had a haircut. You're looking more Robert De Niro than Robert Duran right now. But what style did you have?
It's half as good as Roberto Duran, I'm sure. But still.
What style were you as a fighter?
I was a box fighter. I could do a little bit of boxing. I like to have a bit of a tear up, to be fair. We come from a Fenland town in St Giles in Cambridgeshire. It's a market. It's a Fenland market town, and people tend to fight there. So that's what we do.
Now, fascinatingly, Dad, as you say, was a trainer and manager, also managed Joe Bugner in his 2 fights against Muhammad Ali. Do you have any recollection of that? As the lights go out on you, come nearer the. That's it. Come nearer the. Come,
you got to move, yeah.
You've got to move. You're so still when you do an interview that the lights go out. I know you've been having power cuts all day. Tell us about.
It's very frustrating, these lights. If you stand still long enough, it just goes lights. No, I do remember it very well. Joe, when he first fought Ali, was in Las Vegas. Conti fought on the bill. Terry Daniels, etc. John Stracey fought on the bill. Joe was about 22, 23, lost on points in a very good fight. And then he fought Ali for the world title a few years later when he was about 25 in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And he didn't do so good that night. He lost on points again, but it wasn't great. But no, it was a very good thing. My father also managed Dave Boy Green, who boxed for the world title twice against one of the most underrated world champions in Carlos Palomino, great fighter, and then the great Sugar Ray Leonard, and got stopped or got knocked out in 3 rounds at Leonard. No, we were very lucky. But my father never had many boxers because Cambridgeshire is not a hugely boxing area, So he also had Des Morrison, who's a British light welterweight champion from Bedford. So we had a successful gym for the amount of people we had in there.
Did you ever meet Muhammad Ali as a result, or were you back at home in those days at school in your shorts?
I met him at the Albert Hall. He did an exhibition. I don't know what year it was, but I was very young. And my dad took me into the dressing room. I did meet him, yes. Yeah.
Is it true that John H. Stracey, or one of the guys, I think Elvis Presley was at one of those fights, wasn't he?
I think he would have been. He would have been at the Las Vegas fight. Yes. I forget what year it was, but he would have been at that.
I've got a feeling that he gave someone, whether it's John H. Stracey. I remember an old story. John H. Stracey, or one of the boxers, Elvis was performing at Vegas at the time, and he gave one of the guys his cape.
I think that's possibly true, but I know that Tom Jones was there. I know that for a fact. There's a photograph of him. A lot of people were there for that. And whenever Ali boxed, it was a huge event. So people, and also in Las Vegas, I presume Tom Jones was singing, had a concert on every night sort of thing. So and Elvis would have begun the same. He was the artist there. So a lot of celebrities went to those events.
Rob, a lot of fans have got opinions about today's announcement. I wanted to give you some of those comments. There are, John Saxby is saying, can we move away from calling people haters and invoking hate when most people are just disappointed at how our boxing is being fed to us, or subscribers who have a right to be critical? There's Chris Whitaker says, feel Chisora would have been a tougher test, but with AJ lately, could he end up being an actual test? Maybe on AJ's last performance, I see this being an easy night's fight for Joshua. Matty Riles, I'm not mad at all, think it's a great replacement, was fine for Wilder in his last fight. To Italy 0121 says, on a week's notice, he'd need a full camp to fight Hrgovic. Why would Hrgovic want to risk losing to AJ? None of this, Pete W says, none of this is AJ or Matchroom's fault. The replacement is decent without being great, and it's now not pay-per-view. So I wasn't watching boxing this weekend. Now I will. Loads of comments coming in when I requested this. There's this criticism at the moment that heavyweight boxing is stalling the division, that there's this waiting game for Saudi money all the time. We know that Anthony Joshua may face Deontay Wilder there. We know that Tyson Fury's doing a crossover fight, if you like, with the UFC champion Francis Ngannou. We know that Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury may fight there for the undisputed title next year. From your perspective, finally, yes, the heavyweight division commands more mainstream attention, and you and I talk about this on the phone, off the record, all the time. It commands more mainstream attention than any of the other divisions. But is boxing in a healthy place, in your view?
I think it is, and I do fully, and I fully respect those opinions. And I actually, as I've said before, I think this is a decent replacement under the circumstances. And when we talk about Filip Hrgovic, you know, why would he take a fight when he's #1 contender for the IBF Championship? It's a bit of common sense here. If he fights Anthony gets beat, he's lost that position. So, you know, whoever wins out of Dubois and Youssef, he's going to have to defend against him at some point. So, of course, if he wins on Saturday. But I do think the heavyweights, it's always been the same. Ever since I was a young boy, it's always been the same. But generally, the better fights in the lower division, welterweight up to super middleweight now. You know, we've got Liam against Christopher again. It's a good fight. We've just had, you know, Crawford and Spence, with everybody's moaning about fights don't take place. It took place, and we saw a masterful performance from a fantastic world champion against a very good world champion. Josh Taylor obviously got beaten, a very good fight. These are good fights, and we tend to, for some reason, we seem to like, or the audience seem to like, big men punching each other. But there's more talent in other divisions. And I just think boxing's doing really well at the present time. We shoot ourselves in the foot on a regular basis, but on the whole, I think we're doing good.
Are there any changes that, if you had a magic wand, that you'd make that would help boxing? I mean, there's always talk of a world's governing body. We don't have that, of course. We have 4 main sanctioning bodies and a 5th in the IBO that maybe isn't as powerful as the other 4. Do you think a world's governing body would change that?
I do. I've always talked about that. We'd be working to the same rules. We'd be working to the same anti-doping procedures. We're certainly working to the same medicals. You know, if you box in a state, I mean, put it this way, Gareth. America doesn't even have an American Boxing Board of Control. Every state looks after itself. And the medical provisions that they have are different from ours. And therefore, it takes a little bit longer to get an American boxer to come over here because of the medicals and what we require and what they can supply. Same as you. Exactly the same. So I think a world governing body, a proper world governing body, and I don't mean a sanctioning body, I mean a world governing body, would be very beneficial to the sport.
Well, it wouldn't allow, for example, a world governing body perhaps wouldn't allow the WBC to allow Tyson Fury 18 months to defend his title, let's say, and face Francis Ngannou. Will probably say, you know, you have to be. Well, the WBC will probably make it a champion emeritus, or champion in recess. But do you think we'll get that world governing body at some point in the near future, or at least when you're in your tenure as Boxing Board of Control General Secretary?
No, not in my time. Not in my time at all. I think also the other thing is if you've got, it's all, you know, don't forget you have a world governing body that generally regulates the sport. It'd be nice to have one world heavyweight champion. That's not going to happen. I remember in the 70s and 80s when there was only 2, WBC and WBO. And to be fair, that worked quite well. But now you've got the proliferation of everybody else. It does make things more difficult. But I think more than likely, a world governing body would be more regulatory to be in, and you'd still have the sanctioning bodies as WBC and WBA, you know, WBO, and IBF, etc., and the IBO. And don't forget, all they do is sanction championships. We mustn't forget they don't govern anything; they sanction championships, and therefore we've got to deal with them accordingly for our promoters.
Robert Smith, General Secretary of the Boxing Board of Control, thank you so much for your time today and your insights on the sport. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Rob. Well, that's a wrap for episode 9 of Fight Club with me, Gareth A Davies, via Boxing Social. My thanks to Robert Smith, Rhys Mold, Chris Eubank Jr. and Sam Jones. We'll see you next week.